Welcome to How to Train Your Dragon. The movie begins with Fog on a small island and the narration, which later turns out is our main character. His name is Hiccup, and he introduces us to his world. It's a village named Berg, which has a little problem with dragons. They used the beginning scene to introduce all the main characters for this movie and the huge franchise coming out of this movie. And let me tell you, this movie trilogy is amazing. I'm always just trash talking movies, but this one, it's good. Not my favorite movie ever, but it's close. Maybe one day I'll trash talk my favorite movie too. As I said, they introduce all the characters in the movie. Well, there's Hiccup, Stoic, which is Hiccup's father, Gobber, which is a good blacksmith, and Hiccup's mentor, or Stoic's best friend since forever. Astrid, who is Hiccup's great love, but she doesn't even realize he exists until later in the movie. Fishlegs, who is the actually guy as a person. Snotlout is basically just the bully of the group, which simultaneously is the most scared of them all, and then there are the twins. After I declared all the important members of the movie, let's get to the plot. The Vikings aren't leaving just because they don't want to leave, as they are too convenient there, and having to live with permanent dragon attacks forms the character. When Hiccup is running around on the outside because he has to get to his workplace, to Gobber to be precise, all the members of the tribe tell him to go back inside, and that outside isn't the place where they want him to be. I wonder why. Generally, it's a wise choice to make your main character so skinny and weak to have a good personal development through the movie, but still, making him such a big contrast to all the other people is just a crazy choice. He's not even fitting there, so. The beginning of the movie is all about telling the viewers, or basically us, that it's so important to kill a dragon, or at least capture one. They basically have enough opportunities to do so, as they have enough dragon attacks. But as we can clearly see, Hiccup is not one of the strong ones and can't even lift anything remotely close that could kill it or even harm a dragon. While he should be working on repairing the bent or destroyed weapons, he introduces us to the rest of the kids of the village. He sounds like we all did when talking about our crush in preschool. Like he just came as he saw her, which I wouldn't know how that sounded. Hiccup is kind of jealous of them and wants to join them. But because Gobber and his father Stoic think he's just too weak to join them, and because of past incidences we don't know about, he isn't allowed to be outside when the action takes place. He wants to kill a dragon, but he can't. So he uses his brain to build machines to do all his work. His engineering is something that is strange for the village to accept. Because they all are just so used to using their strength, everything new just gets rejected. He tells us about the 5 different kinds of dragons we see in this movie. The Gronkel, the Deadly Nether, the Zippleback, the Monstrous Nightmare, and the last one is the Night Fury. We see some more dragons throughout the movie, but those are the important ones, even though I'm not calling them by their name ever. Hiccup's plan is basically this. He doesn't want to start little and kill something small or easy. No, he wants to start with the big guns. It's like starting to program, and at the start you want to replicate httyd and not just code hello world first. But of course he doesn't listen and runs with the self-built machine, which just shot at a guy who should be dead by now. But it's a kids movie, so nobody dies here, right? Anyways, he drives at the top of a cliff with his net machine, which he apparently reloaded after the first accident a few moments ago. He is aiming at the Night Fury. You can't really call that aiming. He just saw a shadow, and when that shadow was way past him, he took a shot with his eyes closed. But by sheer coincidence, and it being a kids movie, he hit it and it crashed to the ground. As he celebrates, a dragon comes to him and chases him through the village. His father notices that he gets chased, and because he has to save his son, he lets the other Vikings take over his world in capturing the dragons, which happened while Hiccup was waiting to shoot. Obviously, Stoic saved him, but because he saved him, as I said, the village got destroyed more and the dragon escaped, stealing all their sheep. His father grounded him, as it's not the first time the village got destroyed because of him, and Stoic has to clean up his mess. When Gobber walks him to his house, the other kids just mock him for what he has done. As soon as he comes home, he leaves through the back door and goes out to find the dragon he just shot. In the main hall, Stoic is getting together a team to leave, to go after the dragons and kill all of them as a last attempt before the winter. At first, they were all too afraid to join his expedition, but he dared those who stayed behind to look after Hiccup, so they all joined. Only one dude stays behind, but just because Stoic asks him to do it. It's Gobber, to train the new recruits, and he convinces him to train Hiccup as well, but Stoic doesn't think Hiccup can do it. Back to Hiccup, who we see in the middle of the forest searching for his dragon. As he almost lost hope, he punches a tree that is conveniently exactly that tree where the Night Fury went through when it came crashing down. And additionally, the twig that Hiccup hit is just gone after the camera switched. And as much as we can see, he didn't move after that, so movie science. Movie science. He follows the path of the crash and finally finds his dragon. At first, he thought it's dead, but it isn't, and he's trying so bad to kill it. But he just can't do it. So he decides to free it from his shackles and let it go. The dragon pins him to the ground, but just screams at him and goes away. Hiccup gets back home in the middle of the night and his father just ignores this behavior. Stoic has decided that Hiccup can join the dragon training, but because of the forest incident Hiccup just had, he doesn't want to join the dragon training anymore. His father is very stubborn and doesn't want to listen to his son, so he just ignores everything Hiccup tries to tell him, or even yells at him for trying to get out. After that, his father just leaves to go after the dragons. The next day, the new recruits come into the dragon training arena and Gobber, who is their trainer, just lets the dragon loose at them, as learning by doing is the best strat to learn something. Of course, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. So he teaches them how to fight against dragons. At first they didn't know what to do, but Gobber helps them at giving useful advice. The day ends with us learning that dragons have a limited number of shots and that they always go for the kill because Hiccup almost got killed. So obviously he asks himself as to why the Night Fury didn't go for the kill when he had the chance. And even more obviously, Hiccup goes after the traces of the Night Fury. He comes to some kind of ice bowl-like structure made from stone with a glade and a pond in the middle, where at first he was kind of sad that it was a dead end. But it turns out the Night Fury is stranded in there because it can't fly anymore. Hiccup draws the general shape of it and finds out that one of its tail fins are missing and that's the reason why it can't fly. It's crazy what DreamWorks does in their movies. The dragon is just permanently crippled and they put stuff like that in a movie designed for kids. I mean, tough choice, but it maybe teaches them that everything in life has consequences. But they just put it there as they needed a reason to keep the dragon somewhere so Hiccup can befriend it. After drawing it, he drops his pencil and the dragon notices him, but he just looks curious at him. Hiccup gets back and joins the others at dinner, but they basically all just leave after he arrives, leaving him alone in the big room with just the dragon book. It gets even darker and he reads through it. It has details on all the dragons except the Night Fury. It's basically just saying that he should kill all of them. We get a quick shot from Stoic and this journey where they are just entering the fog and immediately get attacked by a dragon. The second day of dragon school is not very exciting as they just run around from a bigger and lighter dragon and Hiccup is asking a lot of questions about the Night Fury page in the book. At the end, Astrid just yells at Hiccup, as if he could have done anything different from preventing Astrid from falling on him, which clearly he couldn't have done anything. After that, Hiccup goes to the dragon and this time he brought food for him. He tries to give him the fish, but the dragon is still pretty unsure of him and demands that Hiccup drops his knife. When he does that, the dragon gets visibly more comfortable with his presence. He sees that the dragon hasn't got teeth, so he names him Toothless from this point onward. Hiccup tries to bond with him and actually succeeds as they share the same food and Toothless is in general pretty interested in what Hiccup is doing. Hiccup draws Toothless's face in the sand and so does Toothless. The boy doesn't really know what to do, so he just tries what he can and cannot do, as it seems stepping on the lines is prohibited and Toothless doesn't like that. But he eventually comes to the dragon and reaches his hand out to touch it. And even though that's an emotional moment, I must add something I found when researching the movie. The slight uncertainty that Toothless has in the scene was an error in the software used to model the movie, but they just kept it in because it fit the vibe of the scene. Toothless acts like we all did after we sent the risky text. He got out of the situation as quickly as possible.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
The gang is sitting at a campfire on one of the catapult towers, where Gobber tells the story about how he lost his leg and hand. While he's telling that story, he mentions that if you want to kill a dragon, you have to cut off the tail and all the wings, as a grounded dragon is a dead dragon. That makes Hiccup reconsider everything he has done with Toothless so far, and he quickly goes home to get to work on the prosthetics for his injured friend. So he's working all night long on a prosthetic fin. The fin he painted on the wall is the wrong-sided one. Toothless is missing the left one and he has the right one on his wall and in his hands. But when he later gets to Toothless, he has the left one in his hands. While trying to get the fin attached to Toothless's tail, he finds out that the dragons don't like eel. Hiccup manages to get the fin attached and Toothless uses the opportunity to just fly away. But he hasn't thought about how that thing is supposed to work, so after Hiccup helps him fly for a bit, Toothless just wants to fling him from his tail to go back to his freedom. So you see that everything they did together was just Toothless taking advantage of him. Back to Dragon School, Hiccup begins to use the knowledge he gathered from hanging out with Toothless. The others are obviously very impressed with what he has just done. We then get to the biggest montage of the movie, where it constantly switches between Hiccup and Toothless trying to fly, and him learning about things Dragon like or don't like, and him being in Dragon School just being the best because of his side knowledge. At the end of that, we see Astrid almost catching Hiccup, going to Toothless and seeing them in the town. The next morning, Stoic returns from his journey to find the dragon's nest, but they haven't really succeeded, as 2 of their ships got destroyed and the last one barely makes it home. All the Vikings make it home, as it's a kids movie and they obviously can't show that. The first thing Stoic asks is about his son, and it seems like he's just dead. But to his surprise, his son is a celebrity in the village now, as he did so good in the dragon training. We then again see Hiccup and Toothless learning to fly, which doesn't really work that good yet, but that's why he has his cheat sheet. I'm not sure which fault it was that his sheet just took off as he had a clipper for it, but it didn't hold that well because of the high speed and the wind obviously. Who would have thought? Well, after he loses it, everything turns bad, as he loses control of Toothless, and as he can fly without him, they just crash to the ground and die. Actually not, but it got close. Hiccup grabbed his sheet before they started falling, but couldn't control him that second. They both eventually catch up with each other while falling, and in the last second, Toothless manages to open his wings to glide down and reduce the speed. This scene is important for the ending, as Toothless spits fire into one of the littler dragons, and it explodes. Hiccup notices that the dragons aren't fireproof from within. Hiccup is chilling at the workshop, probably thinking about how he could improve his design, when his father suddenly stands in the door behind him. He is congratulating him on being so good in the ring. It seemed at first as if he knew that he was riding that dragon, but it just was weird wording. In the ring on the next day, Astrid and Hiccup are in their final training to decide who gets the honor to kill the dragon the next day. And as the movie has it, the elderly, who is the one who has to decide, chooses Hiccup. He then packs his things and goes to Toothless, telling him they must leave immediately and never return, but Astrid follows him to his hiding spot. She threatens Hiccup, telling him to reveal his secrets, until she hears Toothless making noises, and she panics as she sees him. Toothless, as he and Hiccup are pretty much friends now, rushes to defend him, as he sees that Astrid has her ex with her. But Hiccup goes between them, so they don't hurt each other. Astrid, as she is just disturbed by what she just witnessed, runs away, as does the dragon. They follow her, trapping Astrid in a tree until she agrees to go with them, as they show her the good side of what riding on a dragon can look like and feel like. At the end of their flight, in the middle of the night, as they have been flying for a long time, something in the dragon clicked and he suddenly has a straight route to follow. That doesn't really make sense to me, as they are shown to be pretty close to the island and the journey Stoic made seems rather far, but it was almost in the same direction, so it's a continuity error. Movie science! Anyways, he follows the route the other dragons take, and it leads them into what seems like a volcano, where they observe that the dragon just throw their food into a big hole. But it turns out that isn't just some big hole, it's like the space ram in Star Wars, just down in the hole waiting with his mouth open to get fed. They barely escaped, as I think the big mama dragon smelled them. And now, when they get back, they must think of a way to tell his father that they found the nest, without telling them how they found it and why they know that it's there, as he is concerned that they might kill Toothless. The next day, it's finally time for Hiccup to kill that dragon, and they finally get told how long they were gone. It was at least a few weeks. The montage we saw and everything in it just made it seem like a few days, but obviously was just a time lapse to pass an unknown amount of time. Stoic gives a speech about what a loser Hiccup was before, and he tells the whole village how proud he is of him. Hiccup, as he has his own secret now with Astrid, obviously listens to his speech and has a plan to show the whole village that dragons aren't their foes, but they can also be their allies. So when he gets into the ring and they let the dragon loose, he uses all the information gathered around Toothless to use with that dragon. He throws away his weapon and helmet and reaches out his hand. Stoic on top of the ring doesn't want to watch that, as he probably thinks Hiccup is getting eaten or boiled any second now. Interrupts the fight and the dragon, as it heard the loud bang of Stoic's hammer, completely loses this and attacks the boy. And because he got attacked, Hiccup screams out of fear, which gets picked up by Toothless, who then rushes out of his prison, where he couldn't escape earlier, and runs towards the ring to protect Hiccup from that dragon. Obviously, the villagers saw the Night Fury and rushed into the ring to protect Hiccup as well, as they finally captured that dragon. Hiccup is trying to protect Toothless, but to no extent, as the dragon could defend himself and almost killed his father, but stops before because Hiccup tells him not to do it. The boy tells Stoic that dragons aren't their enemies, and that their raids are driven by fear of the Red Death. That's the big red dragon in the volcano that wanted to eat them, that triggered Stoic to even think about their nest. He, however, refuses to listen, as he sees Hiccup's friendship for Toothless as a betrayal and disowns him while they are fighting. Despite Hiccup's protests, Stoic believes that this is their chance to destroy the dragons once and for all. They then ready their boats and put Toothless on the main one in chains so they can lead them to their nest. Hiccup waits on top of the cliff where his father sees him, but just ignores him standing there. He just stands there until all the ships can't be seen anymore on the horizon. That's the point where Astrid checks on him, giving him a reality check, but also giving him the idea that he is different than the others. She puts him on the road to get an idea which involves them gathering the other dragon training teens to help. They each got their respective dragon, which fits their personality. I can't be bothered to explain, but yeah. Back to Stoic and his team. They finally arrive at their destination to enter the fog wall. I can't explain why they must enter it at that specific location, or how in fact they can distinguish that location from the other 200 kilometers of just fog, but it's a movie, so who cares. Shortly after entering, Toothless leads them to the island, where they prepare themselves for a battle and start to attack the mountain with the catapults to crack open the mountain. After a few shots, they manage to break it open, and after shooting fireball into said opening, all the small dragons leave, leaving the Vikings thinking they have won. But it turns out they haven't, as Stoic looks at Toothless and seeing that he is just panicking. He knows it's not over. They just woke up the big boy, which then obviously attacks them and destroys the nest all by himself. I think we are all asking the same question now. How did that thing even get into the mountain in the first place? It's huge. Also, I'm not quite sure why the thing is called the Red Death, as its main color is clearly blue with some red accents. Anyways, it destroys their ship, so Stoic decides they need to evacuate the premises. So he and Gobber provide distraction, so the other Vikings have at least a chance to flee. Right when the big boy was about to eat one of the two distractors, Hiccup and the gang show up riding on the training dragons. And you can lip read in Stoic's face, what the? Hiccup's main goal is to free Toothless, but he gives orders to the other teens to keep the big one entertained. After landing on the ship where Toothless is on, the big boy destroys the ships even more after the other teens made it mad, which sent Toothless to the bottom of the ocean floor. Hiccup, as he doesn't want to give up on his friend, is still trying to save him, but just couldn't, as he just isn't strong enough to do so. Then his father shows up, saving him and the dragon, which in return brings him to the surface where Hiccup is just waiting for Toothless to attack the big boy again. Stoic apologizes to him, telling him that he doesn't have to go up there, but Hiccup goes anyway because he has to or something like that. After they are in the air, they save the rest of the gang from the dragon and then take the fight into the sky. The battle is pretty straightforward. They fly high into the sky, take cover in the clouds, where the big one can't see them, blasting its wings a few times. The Red Death is stupid and sets the whole sky on fire, which in turn destroys Hiccup's prosthetic fin on Toothless's body, as this isn't fireproof. Hiccup then has a genius move to nosedive with the big one following him until it starts wanting to grill him with its explosive gas. Before they hit the ground and the dragon made enough gas, they turn around and set the insides on fire. Toothless tries to escape, but because the fin broke, they can't really navigate, so they inevitably hit the spiky thing on the tail of the dragon, which sends Hiccup falling unconsciously to the ground. Toothless is trying to catch up before the big explosion engulfs him, but he's just a bit too late. In the dust of the explosion, Stoic is looking for Hiccup, but only finds Toothless, which makes him believe he's dead. Toothless, as he hears Hiccup's father sobbing for him, reveals that he saved him. Back in the village, Hiccup wakes up in his own house with Toothless waking him up from his coma, where it's disclosed that he is missing his left leg. It's a symbolization that he and his dragon are now even more connected as they share the same injury. At first, he was scared that he still has to hide his dragon, but when he got out of the door, he was pleasantly surprised that they all accepted dragons in their daily life. And the movie ends with Astrid kissing Hiccup and his monologue on how great Berg now is. Basically the complete opposite on which the movie started.